WAOH is brought to you in part by Ohio's #1 trusted real estate team, The Young Team, online at theyoungteam.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Jarosz, and this is a conversation. Today I am joined by Stowe City Council Member at Large and Senior Advisor with Rank the Vote Ohio, Kyle Herman. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about some of the work you've been doing and the education you bring about ranked choice voting. So that might be a new concept for many people hearing that term. So would you mind explaining what ranked choice voting is?
Sure, and it's easier to have a visual in front of you of what a ranked choice voting ballot looks like. So we have this example where you can rank your choices instead of only picking one vote. And this is how they vote in Maine, Alaska, and over 50 cities across the country, where you have more choices and more confidence that your vote will actually matter. Because it solves a big problem with Ohio's current elections where they don't require a majority to win. So if more than two candidates run, then someone can win with 30 or 40% of the vote, which happens a lot at the local level. Now, with ranked choice voting, it works like an instant runoff, where if nobody gets more than 50%, and then the last place candidate is eliminated, and if they were your first choice, instead of your vote being wasted, it will still count for your second choice. So it's like having a runoff election like they do in other states like Georgia, but instead of everyone having to go back to the polls again for an expensive, wasteful, low turnout special election, we already know who your backup choices are. And so it helps uphold majority rule in a single election.
Excellent. All right. So, for example, when you're trying to get like a runoff election, that's already happening in other states.
Correct.
But you're spending millions of more dollars on statewide races to get that top two to be voted on. So ranked choice voting just sort of cuts that middle election out.
Yes.
So why would ranked choice voting be better than our current system that we currently operate, where you just vote the one time, and if you get the majority, which is the most votes, which might be 30%, why is ranked choice voting better than the current system?
Well, if you look at voter participation in even our most recent national election in 2024, the plurality of voters did not vote. And so ranked choice voting helps solve that by giving voters more choices and more meaningful choices. Because what we are hearing from voters in Ohio and across the country is they don't like their choices being limited. They don't like feeling like they have to vote for either the red nominee or the blue nominee, or else they're wasting their votes. With ranked choice voting, it allows a greater variety of choices without wasting their votes. And so Australia has used ranked choice voting for over 100 years. They call it the preferential vote. And there is higher voter satisfaction in Australia because they have more choices. It has resulted in a greater diversity of parties being able to win seats and build coalitions. And it also could help to decrease the partisan polarization that we are experiencing, because right now the incentive structure of our current elections is for politicians to appeal to party bosses and big money in order to win the nominations in their partisan primaries, whereas ranked choice voting would force politicians to actually have to compete to win a majority of votes. And that means that they have to work together to find common ground and to solve problems instead of just trying to create problems.
I remember in previous conversations even about the topic where ranked choice voting promotes that idea of bringing people together, that instead of saying you are the worst, my opponent's the worst thing ever and I'm the best thing ever, you're trying to say, well, I may disagree with this on this candidate, but we have this in common because I want you to maybe put me as your second or third option and not alienate those voters. So it was a way of trying to bring about that sort of consensus and that harmony. But I know, of course, with ranked choice voting, there are probably a lot of people who oppose ranked choice voting, and I'm sure you've heard some people with maybe classic responses. What are some of the critics of ranked choice voting saying, and how would you maybe address some of those concerns that if someone's listening and thinking about this common question?
Yeah, if you've heard of a genuine criticism, I would like to hear it, because most of them are actually problems with our current system that ranked choice voting actually helps to make better, because there's no perfect voting system. There was this Nobel Prize winning theory, Kevin Arrow's theorem, that basically showed that no matter what election system you use, of course, there's always going to be people who are going to be unhappy, because there's winners and losers. Right. So the biggest criticism against ranked choice voting is some politicians claim that it's too confusing, which is kind of a backhanded way of them saying they don't think voters are smart enough to rank their choices. Sure. Because what we've seen in the real world in places that have used ranked choice voting consistently, 80 to 90% of voters in exit polls say that ranked choice voting is simple, and the vast majority want to keep using ranked choice voting.
Excellent. Now, what is the state currently doing about ranked choice voting? Because, of course, ranked choice voting can be used from the federal level, from president, Congress, senators. It can also be used for the state house, state legislature, and even local governments. A city could decide we want to use ranked choice voting for our mayor and city council. So what is the state currently doing to, I guess, maybe derail the progress of ranked choice voting in Ohio?
Right. So the big moneyed special interests and the partisan politicians see competition as a threat. And so you have a partisan Republican and a partisan Democrat in the Ohio Senate who are co-sponsoring a bill to attempt to ban ranked choice voting. However, they know that they can't outright ban ranked choice voting at the local level because it is constitutionally protected by the home rule provisions of the Ohio Constitution. And you had a great interview with Summit County Council President Rita Darrow, who talked about the importance of home rule so that charter counties like Summit and charter cities like Stowe can decide how we elect our own local leaders. That is a fundamental power of local self-government that is protected by the Ohio Constitution. And there were actually 5 Ohio cities who used ranked choice voting in the last century. And this great book that I recommend, Proportional Representation and Election Reform in Ohio, by former Johns Hopkins University professor Kathleen Barber, explains how these 5 Ohio cities, Cleveland, Ashtabula, Cincinnati, Toledo, and Hamilton, all used ranked choice voting, and it increased the diversity of representation. You saw some of the first African Americans, some of the first women council members being elected. However, there was a backlash to that. Even explicitly in Cincinnati, they did not want Ted Berry, who's African American, to become mayor. And so the corrupt party bosses also were colluding in order to suppress and limit voters' choices. And we are seeing that same thing happen again with this ban bill that's at the State House, where because there was Ohio Supreme Court precedent from these cities showing that under home rule they had a constitutional right to ranked choice voting, this ban bill would take away local government funds from any city that uses ranked choice voting. So it's a backdoor way of taking away home rule, which is a threat to all charter cities, because they're claiming that they have precedent for confiscating fines from traffic cameras, and which is a local police power for governments. But this bill goes way farther, creating a dangerous precedent that the state could coerce cities to give up all of their powers of local self-government.
I know, it's amazing that you have Democrats and Republicans who can barely agree on anything, but when it comes down to forcing voters to have a binary choice, Democrat or Republican, that's where they unite to try to bring about a policy that punishes people for expanding their voting options.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of different voters out there are not happy with the two-party system as it currently is. Even our first president, George Washington, warned against the party system. And what we're seeing now very clearly is it's not so much loyalty to your branch of government, you're loyal to your party.
Exactly.
If you disobey your party, then they find someone to replace you. And so it's no longer about serving the people that voted for you. It's about being in the grace of your party, being in the grace of certain donors, where an option like ranked choice voting, maybe it's not meant for every community, maybe it is. But having that option taken away is definitely problematic from a state level. So if somebody is hearing this and they want to get involved in some way, if they want, what are some steps they could take to maybe help support that freedom of elections in Ohio?
Thank you for asking. So back in 2020, a bunch of volunteers, including myself, founded Rank the Vote Ohio, which is a nonpartisan nonprofit to do education about ranked choice voting. And so people who want to support it can go to rankthevoteohio.org to learn more. And specifically, you can even use the shorter version, rtvo.org/action, in order to find ways to help. You can sign the online petition in order to get updates. And we also have a petition that is for people who say, look, I'm unsure about ranked choice voting, but at the very least, we should protect home rule. And so far, we've had more than 21,000 Ohioans who have signed on, and it's growing. And people can also use our website to volunteer, to donate, to learn about how to advocate at the local level with these charter review commissions. With charter cities, it's usually every 5 to 10 years. A group of citizens are appointed to review the city charter and make recommendations. And there are good governance groups like the National Civic League and the League of Women Voters of Ohio. Both support ranked choice voting as a best practice. And so we are seeing more and more cities exploring and recommending ranked choice voting. Already several charter review commissions have recommended it. And here in Summit County, there are a couple cities with charter review commissions this year, Hudson and Stowe, and then Kent is nearby. And so there are opportunities at the local level to get involved, and people can sign up at rankthevoteohio.org.
Excellent. Now, are there any last thoughts or comments you would like to share with the viewers?
I just think that we are at a challenging moment in our country because, as you explained, the incentive structure of our election system is for politicians to put their partisan and personal self-interests and big money over the good of the country, over the good of our state, and over the good of our cities. And ranked choice voting is part of the solution to get back to how policymaking is supposed to be, where politicians try to address problems in our communities instead of trying to wage culture wars and demonize people and ruin the economy on purpose just so that they can serve billionaires. Like ranked choice voting, since it requires politicians to actually compete to win a majority, can help solve so many of the problems that we're facing.
Right, and everyone talks about how they feel the system is broken.
Yeah.
And we can keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, or we can explore alternatives to maybe address those challenges in our system.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us, Kyle, and thank you all for watching. This is a conversation and on ranked choice voting. So thank you for joining us.